Hi there, I'm here to help all of you that are working on the Concertino by David. This video is specifically helping the students that are preparing for the California All Southern and All State auditions. And so it will feature 3 portions of the David. So let's talk about the beginning. So what I suggest is to break down this first rhythm. So put your metronome on and let's maybe start slow. Put your metronome on at 80 and practice the triplet with the metronome. Da 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 da. Then let's practice doing the 16th note to the first note of the triplet. Da da. Okay, and then put that together. Da 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 da. Then start at the beginning. So when you're playing this beginning, you got to make sure that you're counting. You want to think 1, 2, 3, da 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 da. Because what happens is a lot of times students won't be counting correctly or counting at all, and they won't hold the first note long enough. So you want to make sure that you have a real sense of the rhythm. So this rhythm happens many times throughout this piece. So then once you do that first measure, you're going to go to the next one, do the same thing. Do the triplet, do the 16th note to the first note of the triplet, and then put it all together. So you're going to go through that. Then we're going to get to 6 measures before B, which is a lot of people's scary moment. And it doesn't have to be that scary. So what I suggest is breaking it down. So put your metronome on, keep it on maybe 80, and let's just practice the beat 4. And we're just going to go on the D, da 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 da. Okay, so get used to that. Do that a bunch of times. And then let's keep the metronome going, and let's start on the A flat and just go to the D. Di da da. Okay? Then you can try to put that together. Di da 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 da. Okay? So you're just going to do that slow a bunch of times, and then as you start feeling more comfortable, you'll bump up the tempo. Now, if you're having trouble with doing the B flat octave, what I suggest is practicing octaves starting slower. Maybe start on E flat and do E flat, E natural, F, F, and work your way up to the B flat where you feel really comfortable. And then put that together. Ta, ti, ta, 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 ta. Okay? So once you get that all going, you're gonna practice that slow from maybe A to B with your metronome slow, and then you can start pushing up the tempo as you go. So the next spot is going to be, let's see, 11 before C. So this is that run that's on the high B flat, and we're going through the arpeggio. So when we have this, bum ba bum ba 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 ba. Okay, so it's another thing that you're going to want to break down. So what I usually do is I start with the G flat after the high B flat, and I just practice da 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 and get used to that interval, because a lot of times students will miss that interval and then it throws off the whole run. So start with that da da da, and then add on da da dee da da da, and you can just add each triplet at a time, and that will really help you. In the next measure, I like to play my low B flat in like a low trigger third, so that you're going 5-5 trigger back to 5, so that way you don't have to go into first and go back out when we're going at a faster tempo. So once you break down these few measures, you're going to just try putting it together, going slow, and then you can slowly build up the tempo just like you did at the beginning. Then when we get to a few measures before C, see if you can really make the dynamic contrast, where on the F, da 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 dee da 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 dee da da da. So kind of see if you can get kind of the very articulated going up the scale, and then having the legato going down with the crescendo decrescendo. That makes a really nice effect. And then one before C, make sure that you are slowing down gradually and you have a diminuendo. So while you're doing all of this, you know, you want to record yourself all the time, and you want to be recording yourself with the metronome so that you just get more comfortable and you hear all the things that you're doing. Because a lot of times when we're practicing, we don't hear little details. So when you go back and listen, you're going to get better so much faster. So I like to use the app Tunable, and if you have an iPad, it's really nice because when you listen back, it shows you all the intonation that you're playing, so you can go in and mark your part. Like, say every time you play your upper B flat, it's sharp, so like I'll write an arrow down above it to make sure that I remember that I need to flatten it out a little bit to play in tune. And when you're listening back, you want to listen, you know, are you doing all the dynamics? Are you phrasing it? I also like to go through and make sure I mark every breath I'm going to take, because a lot of times if we're not paying attention, we will take way too many breaths, and then it breaks up the phrase. So go through and mark where you need your breaths, and then you can see if you can make it farther and if the breath makes sense in the phrase. The other thing is making sure that you're listening to the ends of the phrases. So every time you come to the end of the phrase, does it sound like you're cutting it off short? Does it sound like you're playing the right length of the note? Does it sound like it has a nice taper at the end of the note and it doesn't just get cut off? Okay, so those are some of the things that I would do with that. So start slow, record yourself, and then just slowly move the metronome marking up. Okay, so when you get to the second page, and we're just doing the beginning of the second movement, remember this is a funeral march, so you want to kind of have that in the back of your mind so that you can try to create that feeling and that sound of that. So when you're playing this movement, you want to really listen to you want to listen to the phrasing that you're doing and the dynamics, and making sure that the ends of the phrases aren't cut off, that they have really nice taper and a really nice beautiful sound. I think on this one, the biggest thing is working on your tuning and making sure it's really nice in tune, and then making it that you're really doing a lot of phrasing and making it so the audience, or whoever's going to be listening to this, gets the emotional feeling that you're trying to convey. So when you listen back, I want you to listen for that. Am I making this beautiful, and am I making this have an emotion that maybe connects with the funeral march? Okay, so now when we get to the last part, so I think like the biggest thing for this last moment is we have 11 after where we're beginning at the ground forza, and we have this big E flat arpeggio. So what I have my students do is I first have them practice going G, E flat, G. So after the high B flat, doing bum bum bum. And then, because most of the time that first interval, it's kind of like in the first movement where in the big run, the first interval, if you mess that up, then it's going to really affect the rest of what you're doing. So go through it and da da dum, and then try da 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 dum, and then just kind of then piece it on. So then when you get to the next measure, we have dia da dia da dia da dia da. So in that measure, I on the second triplet go to fifth for the B flat, and then I just go into my natural positions for the E flat and G on the next one, because you can do the natural slurs. And in the next measure, we have an F trill. So do not worry if you cannot do a trill yet, okay? If you can, I do it in fourth. I do the trill in fourth, and then on the grace notes, I go 5-4, and then I go into first for the high C. If you can't do the trill, just hold an F long whole note and play the grace notes. And you don't have to worry if you can't do that yet. No one's going to hold that against you. A lot of high school students are not able to trill yet. And then when you get to the big run, what I suggest is to start with beat 3 and 4 and practice on the F going down that E flat scale, dee da 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 dee da 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 da. Okay. When you get that really comfortable, start on the high C, dee da da da, and just slowly work on that first 2 beats, and then you can start speeding it up, because that run can be really tricky. So you're just going to have to do it really slow and then start speeding it up. Okay. So once you do all of that, you have that rhythm like we had in the first movement where we have the triplet and the 16th note. And so you can do that whole thing just like you did in the first movement. Break it down, do the triplet, da 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 da, da da, da 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 da. Okay, do that. And then we have this big E flat arpeggio at the end, and with a poco ritardando. So make sure that you're paying attention to that and you're slowing it down. And when you're recording yourself, listen to the intonation and make sure that it sounds really clear. Ultimately, what you want to try to do is get, when you're playing in all registers, to have like a really centered sound and where everything has the same tone quality. So trying to have your upper register really clear and your low register really clear, so that when it just sounds really smooth as you do the whole arpeggio. So the big thing that I want you to get out of this is practicing slow, practicing with a metronome, recording yourself. It's the most important thing, and you will get better so fast if you record yourself and listen back and make little changes to what you need to do, and you'll hear the improvement as you do it. Okay, listen to that. Use a metronome, dynamics, phrasings, marking in your breaths, listening to the ends of the phrases. And if you can do all of that, you know, you have however much time to prepare for this, and you can slowly get better and better and better. And then when you go to your audition, you're totally set. You know that you can play everything, and you don't have to just hope for the best when one of the runs comes up. You've worked it out very slowly and then speeding it up to where you feel really, really secure. So I hope that this video helps you, and best of luck to you in your auditions.